We have some breaking news here on the Chiefs Report by Chat Sports. I am Harrison Graham. The Kansas City Chiefs are expected to cut Frank Clark after failing to reach a reworked contract, according to ESPN NFL insider Adam Schefter. Give him credit here, who had the note first, saying that the Chiefs and Frank Clark's agent Eric Burkhart were unable to find common ground on a reworked deal during several conversations at the Combine, and the expectation now is that Kansas City will release the 29-year-old defensive end, who is the NFL's third all-time leading postseason sack leader per sources. And look, this is a kind of a mixed feels one, right? I mean, I've been telling you guys for a couple weeks there is no scenario where Frank Clark will play under his current cap hit of $28 million, because if they cut or trade him, they could save $21 million. I'm sure if they could trade him, they would, but teams probably don't want to take on his cap hit. I thought both parties would be able to come to terms on some kind of a reworked deal, but maybe Clark and his agent are saying, look, like, with how much I contributed in the playoffs in this Super Bowl run this past year, I'm not going to take more than a minor pay cut. And the Chiefs say, you know what, we're just going to cut you loose and call it a time here, and which has been an interesting time, right? Like, I don't think his regular season numbers are going to be what was remembered, right? When they traded for him from Seattle, we thought we were getting a 10-plus sack per year guy year after year after year. And while he didn't do that, it was still absolutely worth the trade. You know why Frank Clark was worth the trade at the end of the day, even if the regular season production was inconsistent? Because he is a triple P, a PPP. You know what that stands for? A proven playoff performer. Shout out to Frank Clark, 10.5 sacks in 12 postseason games for this franchise. I don't think the Chiefs won the Super Bowl in 2019 without him. You could make a strong argument he's a big reason why they won the Super Bowl this year with how he performed in the playoffs. So I will remember Frank Clark, for the most part, fondly in Kansas City. Did you get top 5 pass rusher in the league that you were hoping for when you trade for him? No, you didn't. Become playoff time? Yeah, you did. I mean, the guy was a dog in the postseason, and him and Chris Jones' friendship and partnership was on another level in the playoffs. And, you know, I'm sure Chris Jones will be a little disappointed by this news. But on the flip side, Brett Veach has a job to do. He has a cap to manage, and you got to make tough decisions. And this might just be one of those at the end of the day. It's not a failure by any means at all. It's just one of those deals that you got to bite your tongue and move on potentially. Is cutting Frank Clark the right move? What does the kingdom think? Type Y for yes if you think it is. Type N for no if you don't think it's the right move. Curious to see what your thoughts are down in the comment section. Let me know what you guys think when it comes to Frank Clark. Now, when you look at this kind of defensive front and overall sack production, you know, you're going to have to find some answers elsewhere. Again, Frank Clark only had 5 sacks last year, so it's not like you're replacing Chris Jones, who had 15.5. And by the way, preparing to pay him a big, massive extension could be part of this discussion as well. You've got George Karlaftis, Michael Danna coming off the edge. Carlos Dunlap, maybe he's an option as a free agent to bring back on a cheapish deal. He had 4 sacks a year ago, but obviously, assuming Clark does get cut, you're going to have to get an edge rusher. I don't think there's any doubt about that for Kansas City, because Frank Clark is not going to be there, and he's been a starter for this team for 4 years. I like how Karlaftis finished last year. I think he had 5 of his 6 sacks over the past 7 or 8 games, so that was good. I think Danna is a good rotation guy, but maybe you draft someone in the first round. Maybe you sign a Yannick Ngakoue in free agency. Marcus Davenport's out there, although I don't think he performed that well this past year. Bud Dupree just got cut by the Titans, so there will be guys available, but obviously there's always a bit of an unknown when you bring in someone who hasn't been on your team, whereas, you know, while Clark's been inconsistent, especially in the regular season, you've kind of known what he brings to the table over the last 4 years. So Dunlap, who's also a free agent there for Kansas City, I think you bring him back on a cheap deal if you can, and then you go try and sign someone to pair with Karlaftis as a starter. If Danna and Dunlap are your backup ends, I feel pretty good about that. If one of them has to start, I don't feel quite as good about that, so we'll have to wait and see how it plays out, because obviously this team was second in the NFL in sacks. Tell you guys a little bit about our sponsor on today's show. and that is our friends over at Athletic Greens, giving me the energy boost to start my day every single day with a simple scoop of AG1. You can get a comprehensive and convenient daily nutrition at athleticgreens.com/chatsports. I started taking AG1 almost 2 months ago now, and I've never felt more energetic. Football season is a grind. The off season, there can be long days as well, and sometimes you need that extra boost early in the morning, and one scoop a day with AG1, I always have that extra energy that I need, and there's other health benefits as well. Not only is AG1 helping me get back into good habits, I'm already seeing better digestion. Improving my gut health is something that I've needed to do for a while, and now that's happening with the simple scoop every single day. Covering my nutritional basis for the day literally could not be easier, which is why I trust Athletic Greens. I just mix one small scoop of AG1 with water and drink it first thing in the morning. I also like that it costs less than $3 per day. Pretty good deal if you ask me. It's a really effective daily habit with the highest quality sourced ingredients, a win-win. If a comprehensive solution is what you need from your supplement routine, then Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs. All you got to do is use our link, athleticgreens.com/chatsports. It's athleticgreens.com/chatsports. Check the comments, check the description, click and shop today. Start your day with AG1 and get those free travel packs and vitamin D. So let's go from one big name on the Chiefs, news around Frank Clark, to Orlando Brown, who apparently is not going to get the franchise tag. Multiple reports coming in from Ian Rappaport and others that the Chiefs will not franchise the offensive tackle. The deadline to do so, if they change their mind, is tomorrow, Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern time. I got to be honest. I am shocked by this, especially now that it appears the Chiefs are going to cut Frank Clark. You've got the money to tag Brown, which would be around a $20 million dead cap hit, and they're still not going to do it. Even if you change your mind later and you're like, you know what, we're going to let him walk, why not tag him initially? I got to say, I'm pretty puzzled by this. I'm not, I trust Brett Veach, and I've said that Brown's been an inconsistent player, but he's also finished both years in Kansas City strong, and it's not easy to just go find a franchise left tackle. And regardless of what you think of Brown, he is a good player. So pretty surprised by this. I'm curious what you guys think. How surprised are you by Kansas City not tagging Orlando Brown? Scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not at all, let him go, 10 being you're shocked. In terms of how surprised I am he's not at least getting tagged initially, I'll go about a 9 out of 10. I did not see this coming at all. Now, maybe they'll change their minds in the next 20 hours, but it doesn't seem that's going to be the case. So, scale of 1 to 10, how surprised are you that Orlando Brown is not receiving the franchise tag? Now, interesting note here from Ari Merov of the 33rd team saying that the Chiefs have both their tackles, left tackle Orlando Brown, right tackle Andrew Wylie, set to be free agents next week. Kansas City has 2 All-Pros, center Creed Humphrey and guard Joe Thuney, up for new deals next year on the offensive line. It's getting expensive up front, and tough decisions are now being made. And look, that's true. When you have a win-now team like Kansas City, you got to kind of pick and choose who you're going to pay. And obviously Creed Humphrey, especially at center, a young player and arguably the best center in the league, that's someone you're going to have to keep around long term. He's the epitome of consistency. But I do wonder, maybe now you bring back Andrew Wylie, who's obviously a cheaper player than Orlando Brown. Maybe give him the $6 to $8 million he can probably get on the open market. Then maybe you draft a left tackle first, second round. I mean, who knows? I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how the Chiefs approach their tackle position. And I do want to mention that the Chiefs, according to reports, would still like to re-sign Orlando Brown. They're just not going to tag him because Albert Breer has this note here. They made the decision to not tag him because they want a long-term answer. Like, they don't want to do another 1-year Band-Aid with Brown and not know if he's going to be here for the long haul. They would rather sign him to a long-term deal, and if it doesn't work with him, they'd rather make it work with someone else. He basically said that it would basically make him free in 2024, make it hard to do a deal because of the $20 million franchise tag number now. They'll look at all options. And I still think option A is re-signing him, but I think Brett Veach will be firm, and he's not going to overpay. He didn't do it last offseason when Orlando Brown wanted to reset the market at left tackle. I don't think his play has been good enough to reset the market with him now. I mean, he's basically been the same player for 2 years. Really good, but not reset the market worthy. And you can't overpay on several players. You just can't do it if you want to have a sustainable roster. So I do respect the Chiefs' approach. I do also think that you have to accept that you may lose him now, and you better have a plan B, a plan C, whatever the case may be. But it's reality, man. The reality is that the Chiefs are not going to pay top dollar. I think they've made that clear. I think his inconsistent play justifies that thinking. He did not play good enough last year to be the highest paid left tackle. While he's improved in the second half of each season as a Chief, he still hasn't shown that week in, week out consistency to reset the market. Like, to pay him more than what Trent Williams makes per year, that just doesn't make sense. Like, you can't give him $24-25 million per year and most of it guarantee. It's a too big of an overpay. You can't do it, especially if you want to get Chris Jones back on another extension, especially if you want to re-sign a Juju Smith-Schuster. Like, you got to kind of pick and choose where your money is going to be allocated, and I think the Chiefs would pay him a lot of money. I just don't think they're going to reset the market. So maybe them not tagging him here is sending him a message of, hey, how bad you want to be a Chief, man? Do you want to go elsewhere, or do you want to make something work that's fair for both sides? We'll see how the next week plays out. Because you look at the highest paid offensive tackles, I've kind of said, okay, throw around $20 million at him. I think paying him more than Ronnie Stanley can be justifiable. Ramczak's a right tackle, so 5 years, $100 million, $60 million guaranteed is kind of what I would do. Which, quite frankly, is why I would still tag him, because I think $20 million on a one-year deal, I get full cap hit against you, so that's kind of a bummer. You can't backload it or anything because it's a one-year tag. I still think that's worth it, though, because I think he's around a $19, $20, $21 million player. So I would give him that tag. He's a really good player. I like Orlando Brown a lot. Got to talk to him in Phoenix before the Super Bowl. Really upfront guy. I appreciated his time. But I would be comfortable saying that he's not a reset the market type of player. And outside of quarterback, you should not feel pressured to overpaying if you're a franchise for a player that's maybe the fifth best at his position. So we'll see. I mean, again, I'd like for him to stay. I think he's probably better than any option out there, unless one of these rookies is going to come in and be an all-pro. But at the same time, it appears that the Chiefs are not going to overpay to do it. So who will Brown play for in 2023? Type KC for the Chiefs. I think it's going to be someone else. Type O for other. And if you want to overachieve, maybe drop a team name down in the comments. I know a bunch of people are already saying Bears. They got cap space, $100 million, yada yada yada. We'll see. We'll see what happens on that front. And like I said, this is why you subscribe to the channel. Chiefs news, rumors, they're heating up, so don't miss any of it. Hit the subscribe button. We're going to continue to keep you guys in the loop on everything surrounding Chiefs Kingdom, free agency, draft, cuts, trades, all kinds of stuff. It's going to be a busy offseason. It always is. YouTube.com/ChiefsTV. We will be your hub here on YouTube. Now, I do want to revisit the conversation on the offensive line, because your interior is set with Tooney, Humphrey, and Smith. You don't have to worry about anything there. But both tackles are set to be free agents. Do the Chiefs view Lucas Niang as a guy who can come in and start at right tackle? If he's healthy, I think he can. Before he had that bad injury in 2021, I thought he was playing at an above-average level. Now, he was probably your fifth best out of your starting five offensive linemen, but a lot of that's just because the rest of the line's really damn good. Like, if Niang is league average to above average, that's perfectly fine. But having both spots open, if Brown walks, both offensive tackle spots are up for grabs. It's a little unsettling. Like, you don't want to enter free agency with no answers at tackle. So, it's decision mind. Again, Brett Veach has earned our trust. We have to see how this plays out. I have a feeling that one of Wylie or Brown will be back. I just don't see a scenario where they're both just gone and, they're kind of gambling a little bit, but anything's possible, man. I mean, that's just the reality of having a high, payroll type of roster with big name players. You can't pay everybody. So that's just the reality. We'll explore some replacements quickly here. Who could be some Orlando Brown replacements on the offensive line? Some free agent options here. Mike McGlinchey, the 49ers right tackle. Caleb McGarry, who's also a right tackle. Taylor Lewan, who's a left tackle, but he's had a ton of injuries. He actually has already been cut by Tennessee. Jawan Taylor with the Jags, he's a right tackle. Jermaine Illuminor is as well. It's really more of a right tackle free agent class, so maybe you sign a right tackle, maybe even bring back Andrew Wylie, And then you look at the draft for a left tackle, that could be a possibility. Do you want a rookie protecting Patrick Mahomes on his blind side? I don't know. If you feel strongly about one of these guys, maybe you're comfortable doing it. Peter Skoronski, who might end up being a guard, but I included him here. I like Paris Johnson Jr. a lot. Really good athlete, really long arms. Broderick Jones is a good athlete as well. Good chance all three of those guys are gone before you pick at 31. Darnell Wright's been moving up draft boards. I think he's probably more of a right tackle. Anton Harrison, probably more of a right as well, but he's got some flexibility. Dawan Jones is definitely a right. Jalen Duncan, I think, could play either spot. Matthew Bergeron. Cody Mosh, kind of like a poor man Skoronski, could play tackle, could play guard. We'll see. Then Warren McClendon, who could be more of a little bit more of a project on the offensive line as well. I know that you feel good about the interior, but at the same time, we saw Patrick Mahomes running for his life in the Super Bowl a few years ago against the Buccaneers because both starting tackles were out and they couldn't block. So I gotta think that Brett Veach has a plan and he has some contingencies to make sure this offensive line doesn't collapse on the outsides. But I'll be honest, I did not see no franchise tag happening for Orlando Brown. All right, guys, busy show today. Frank Clark apparently walking out the door, and Orlando Brown could be behind him. So we'll see if they catch an Uber together as they exit Kansas City. Who knows? We will be here every single day this offseason, so hit that subscribe button. Don't miss any of it. I'm Harrison Graham, and we will continue to keep you guys informed on the Chiefs Report.